Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the regular school committee meeting of Monday, August 6, 2018. This is your notice that this meeting is being electronically recorded. At this time, I would entertain a motion to amend our agenda to move the introduction of the assistant principal of Hill Roberts Elementary School to the top of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. At this time, then, I'll turn it over to the superintendent to introduce our new assistant principal at Hill Roberts Elementary School.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to at this time invite up our new assistant principal for Hill Roberts, Evan Chelman. And I would ask that Assistant Superintendent Regan say a little bit about the process and how we came to such a fine conclusion.
So it's our pleasure to have Evan here with us tonight. He participated in a rigorous interview process with a team of Hill Roberts educators, and then came up to us to meet with Julianne and I, and went through another series of questions and interview process. And as he was the final candidate for us, he has been an educator with the Franklin Public Schools for 13 years. While he was there, he participated in various committees, including the Digital Learning Committee. He's a district Google trainer, and he has also participated in a social emotional learning committee. In the application, we asked him what were the qualities of an excellent administrator, and he cited in his application, number one was trust, being open and honest. And being open and honest with students and families and colleagues, having explicit communication, and the final thing that he mentioned was having a sense of humor. And so we witnessed that in our interview with him. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Evan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me and for also amending the agenda as well. I do appreciate it. I am thrilled to be not only part of Hill Roberts, but part of the Attleboro community. A lot of the conversation I had with Lori had to do with the town and the community, not just about the school and the families and the community at the school, but about the town of Attleboro. And I look forward to learning about the town and the community of Hill Roberts and becoming a true member. Since I've started the process here and gotten the blessing of the educators and the powers that be, I've really felt very welcomed and very supported throughout the entire process, and with everybody involved. So I'm looking forward to beginning the school year. I'm looking forward to a new and different experience at Hill Roberts as well, with the setup of the building and just getting to be part of the culture and the community there. So thank you very much for the welcome this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this community.
Thank you and welcome to the Attleboro Public Schools and Hill Roberts Elementary. We're excited to have you. We're excited to have an assistant principal at Hill Roberts, another one of our elementary schools. We think it'll make a major impact, and we're excited about you coming in and taking on that role. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Evan? No?
I would say too that I understand that getting a new position, a new human body in a situation like this is a gift, and I do not take that lightly. So I look forward to everybody's input, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you more throughout the school year.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Getting assistant principals in our elementary schools has been a goal of this school committee and the school administration for many years now, and we're happy that it'll be the second elementary school now that we have one in, and with your success, we'll continue to move forward with that. So wish you all the best of luck, and look forward to seeing more of you, and hope you have a great first year at Hill Roberts.
Me too. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. At this time, the Attleboro School Committee will convene an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 21A2 and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to negotiations with union personnel and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee. The school committee will then reconvene in open session. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Diane?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Lori?
Yep.
Steve, yes. Bill?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
All right. right, recall this meeting to order and turn it back to our business agenda. Again, the superintendent's report. Mr. Sawyer?
Thank you, Chairman Withers. I just wanted to update you on our preparations. I mean, it's a little bit early in terms of when we usually meet in August. I think we usually meet a little bit more towards the middle. So we're just getting underway, but we do have some updates. This is the week that your administration returns full-time, as does their clerical support. So the offices are up and running and beginning their preparations for the return of the educators later this month. That begins for us tomorrow with what we call Leadership Academy, where we spend several days in this August preparing with some real high quality professional development for our administrators as we try to put in place the things we want to implement for the coming year. I also would like to update you on hiring this summer. For that, I will turn it over to our HR director.
So summer is obviously quite a busy time for us. We have so far hired 23 staff people. We are still, however, again, it's early August, so we still have quite a few positions to fill. Principals are interviewing and going through candidates as we speak. So we still have quite a bit of work to do, but we're well on our way for a successful start.
And the thing to remember about that is that, as we're filling positions, the resignations keep rolling in, so
Yeah.
It's a,
Yes,
constant battle all
constant.
that
summer.
was going to be my question as to where we expect to be next year as compared to last year, positions-wise. Are we going to be about the same? Are we expecting to have more teachers or positions overall?
Overall,
Yeah.
there are a couple,
We did
handful
a
of new
handful.
positions that we have.
Teaching positions?
Teaching positions.
So when the dust clears in September, we'll give it an exact number on that, but, at this stage, what we are planning for is a handful. And those positions are all, basically enrollment-driven requirements. When we looked at what our needs were for this year, and both in terms of classroom teachers, but also, services that we must provide for students, we did identify some holes that, we had to plug. So that's what that, again, I'd say that number is 4 or 5.
Okay. Thank you.
I also have a update on our summer registration from our assistant superintendent.
So we've completed 2 weeks of open registration. We have 1 week left. Tomorrow morning, it's from 8 to 1, and Thursday is from 2:30 to 6:30 if anyone still needs to register their children at the start of the school. We have registered about 50 students so far, and we still have a little bit to go. We're hoping that we get people in this week to get them registered and ready for the start.
Mr. Quinn?
Do we have, so we know we have 50 new registrations. Do you know what kind of the net is? How many students have transferred or how many transfers we've sent out for different registration, what we expect?
The specific numbers, normally we have about 140 students, and then we lose about 140 students, and it evens out. So the numbers usually stay pretty even.
How does 50 at this point in time compare to normal years? I know we've made an effort to
Yeah.
get the word out. Is it still about the same, or?
A little bit low for us, so we're expecting everyone to come in this week and within the next few weeks.
Mr. Storrs?
Are there any concerns regarding current class sizes, as in possible needs of going to a new FTE beyond the ones that we've already discussed? Like if
Again,
all
I
of a
guess
sudden
it
this week
depends on
enrollment is
enrollment,
high.
but Lori and I, we sat and really looked at numbers at the end of the year to make sure that the class sizes were, that we had the staff that we needed.
With a
But that could
current-
change at any moment, I guess, with enrollment.
A lot of the personnel moves that are made in the spring are done sort of strategically to create as many opportunities for seats for September, so that as people enroll, we don't have any bottlenecks or really tight points. But that's something that we have to monitor all summer long. It's always a possibility.
Sure.
We keep a very close eye on the numbers, and for any classes that we see are getting tight, then we'll make adjustments here and there so that students will get into a class. But a lot of times what happens is students will move out of a particular grade, and then it'll open up a spot, and we'll be able to make room for new students as they come in.
Mr.
Sorry,
Gaddis?
last thing, I think I saw on the sign at Capron Park, the, anyone interested in registering should visit the website first stop to get all the details and everything like that.
Yes, thank you. That was a great idea mentioned by someone from the committee.
Yes. All right, so to discuss some facilities concerns and our always enjoyable transportation update, Mr. Furtado.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. We've had a really good summer facilities-wise. We had some unexpected work to be done at Brennan, which infringed on the first week of the extended school year program and the SMARTS program in repairing the air conditioning system in the building. But we did get that done. That's more of a a Band-Aid situation, kind of a 5-year Band-Aid as opposed to a complete rehab or reconstruction of the system itself. But it was very good work, and it's done. It's working well. We have a couple of traffic flow programs at our schools. At Thatcher, we're going to start work this week at expanding parking in what is now sort of, from a functional perspective, the rear of the building, but was actually the front of the building, where we'll reconfigure traffic to have parents going on one side and buses and staff on the other to get the kids away from that daily traffic in the morning and the afternoon. We got some great help from the city of Attleboro in doing that at a very small cost to the school district, so we're very excited about that. And then we're going to reconfigure traffic patterns at Willett. That is part of an effort being supported by Councilwoman Parika and her committee. And we hope to have that in place at the start of the school year, where buses again have a unique approach to the building, and parents have a separate, unique approach to the building to again get rid of the traffic congestion over there. As far as cleaning goes, the schools are in great shape. We will finish prior to the start of the school year. We're ahead of where we were last year. We are implementing a new visitor ID system in the schools, the ID badge system for staff and students in the schools. Overall, it's just been a very successful summer. We're in a good spot to start the year off. In terms of transportation, we are in excess of 1,000 applicants at this point for fee-for-service, which is probably 70 to 80% of what we normally see, so we still have a little bump to go. But again, compared to where we were last year, far ahead. Things are settled in very nicely, no significant complaints. We have a couple of stops we have to examine in terms of some of the uses of the buildings in the area. We've had one where it seems to be a rehab clinic, and some parents are concerned about that. We're going to take a look at that. Obviously, the kind of influx of people with criminal issues and where they live, we have to take that into account. So there may be some adjustments, but it's been very steady, a very steady summer, and a very small, relatively speaking, number of issues or concerns expressed by our parents for transportation.
Mr. Gaddis?
Going back to the, I have a few questions.
Sure, yeah.
Going back to the facilities,
Yep.
the AC unit at Brennan, that was one of the items on the capital improvement plan. Does this remedy that for at least long enough so that it can come down on the improvement plan, or should we, is it?
It's going to stay there. We don't.
so
We have a
short-term?
5-year warranty, so
Okay.
we have no expectation to have any concern for the next 5 years. However, one of the things we're discussing with the city is entering into a performance contract for some of our other big problems, which are at Thatcher and Wamsutta. And if we do that, this would be part of that scope of work. So If you recall, performance contracts are where we get guarantees from a vendor for efficiencies and cost reductions due to the efficiencies. If those cost reductions are not met, it's the vendor's problem, and they write a check to us to cover the fact that those guarantees aren't met. And basically, those cost efficiencies pay for the project over a course of 15 years. It's an alternative to bonding for the city, and it doesn't tie up bonding capacity at a time when you're building a new high school. So we're starting that work just to see what the numbers are. We'll bring that back to you for consideration if it makes sense.
And along the same lines, I know the plan that's being implemented at Thatcher was also a capital improvement, so I want to echo the sentiment of thank you to the Department of Public Works for reducing that cost. Do you know what communication is being sent to the Thatcher and Willett families about the changes in traffic flow? How can parents anticipate? Is that coming from the buildings
Yes.
themselves? Okay. And then regarding the bus routes and bus stops, when do I know it's always a big deal when the bus routes are published in the paper. Any idea what that timeline will be?
Yep. So we have an obligation to have the routes into the Sun by Monday, I believe it is. It's going to be published later that week. That's also when we will identify to our families that they're now kind of frozen, as we have done in the past, where we will accommodate applications as we can, but don't guarantee transportation on the first day, and do guarantee transportation by kind of the third week in September. So we're approaching that point, as well as the publication of the routes, both on our website and through the Sun.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson?
Thank you. So I also have a few questions. First, to echo what Mr. Geddes said about Thatcher and Willett, definitely a big thank you. Those were due, definitely. And thank you for the information about how the communication is going to occur. Do we know approximately when parents can expect those communications?
I would expect, I have had discussions with Jeff at Willett, and I would expect the communications to be in everything they do with parents from this point, as they come back from this point forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that'll be important, especially for folks that may not be on their radar. They've been in the habit of going in one particular area, and
Right.
to reduce that chaos. The second question I have is, I saw recently there was an announcement of the roadway reconstruction project going on in Attleboro. And I know ideally it's supposed to be done about the weekend before school starts. Of course, we know that doesn't always go as planned. Do we have any contingencies in place for the bus routes? Especially, I know Locust Street was one of the listed streets. There's a few main thoroughfares. Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Right, if they, in the areas that have been affected in the past, such as on Locust Street, if they haven't completed the repairs by the time school starts, we would do the rerouting the way we did it before. In new places, we would have to see what is available and what's not in order to reroute it as best we can, and we would inform the parents directly by phone calls, speaking directly with parents. And obviously it would be posted on the website, but we wouldn't rely on that as the prime way to communicate with the parents in that circumstance if we have to reroute buses.
Okay, but it's on everybody's radar, and that's being, okay, great, fantastic, thank you.
Mrs. Skills?
Can you just give us an update on the move from the network and things to Finberg?
Sure. Network has been moved. Smarts right now, who is a tenant in the old high school, is in Brennan, entirely in Brennan. And when they move out of Brennan annually, as they do, instead of moving back to the old high school, they'll be moving into Finberg, and that's in another week or a week and a half. And then Abacus had asked for the start of the school year to happen at the old high school, and then kind of mid-September move into Finberg. So by the end of September, everything school-related except for the maintenance department will be out of the old high school.
Great. Any other questions? Mr. Quinn?
It's more of a comment. I think sometimes it's easy to take for granted what
a long school year does to the summertime with the prep. I know that I'm personally feeling that right now with all the snow days. So that the fact that you're feeling as comfortable as you are right now, I think, is a tribute to the staff.
Absolutely.
And all the work that's gone into it. So just kudos to you, and hopefully that pace stays the same.
And in this weather, they've done a remarkable job. They really have, and it's just go visit the schools. You'll see they're in great shape.
Okay, a couple quick other items. We had a retirement among the clerical staff at central office this spring, which means that we'll have a new face. We're up at central office. We're moving some people around, and as part of that, we're anticipating the new building that we'll be inhabiting all too soon, and that building's going to have a welcome center. So we're trying to shift the way that we're aligning our duties along with the way that it'll work there, and we're also creating a space across the hall from the waiting room for my office as a welcome center. So that's the office across from the Bray Auditorium will function as a welcome center there, which is where we'll do registration and have a discrete space for families to do that sensitive work. You know, they have to answer questions and work with our staff to get them registered for school. And rather than doing that, you know, around a whole bunch of people who are there for all kinds of reasons, they'll now have their own dedicated space for that. So we're trying to think ahead to the way things are going to look in the near future and align our resources with that and build our capacity towards what it needs to be when we get there, so that we're ready for the big move. So that was part of that I wanted to make you aware of. And then lastly, Mr. Furtado touched on it. One of the big things that we're doing in terms of school security this year is we are going to an identification system for the entire district. Every student, every staff member, and every visitor in the building will be wearing identification, and we will immediately be able to know when somebody who doesn't belong is in our presence by the lack of such. We've purchased the resources to produce those IDs. We're also implementing a system by which we will be able to do the visitor IDs. And this is a big change that we will be messaging this August to families so that they're not caught off guard by this change. We're very excited about it. We think it's going to help to make our schools a safer place. But I did want to remind you that that is a change that is coming, and it's going to be a bit of an adjustment for everybody, including myself. I'm going to have to get used to wearing a lanyard. So I'll just close by saying. One, and I think you were touching on this, Mr. Quinn, a little bit. The education industry is a little bit strange in that the way that it's seasonal. I don't know how many organizations as complicated as this one, shut down completely and then start back up completely within 2 months, the way that we do. It's a strange process, to be sure, and it is a challenge to get everything where we need it to be so that we can be humming for the start of school. And as you can tell from these updates this evening, a lot of work goes into that, and we feel pretty good about where we stand at that. And as we discussed in my evaluation, our operations are concerned. I think we all share the need to not let our operational concerns be a distraction to our learning concerns, which is what they sometimes become when they don't work right? We're working well operationally when it's invisible to us. And when we're here talking about the various problems we have, that's a demonstration that something has gotten in the way. And so I just hope that the story that we're telling you tonight helps you to see that I believe we're making real progress. We may have a long way to go, but I do feel like we're building systems that we can count on and that will resolve concerns so that we can actually get further ahead. Okay, that can conclude. One last thing. Just a project update on the new high school.
Okay.
There've been a couple of design meetings at the architect, KBA in Foxborough. We've been including key personnel from the school, so our maintenance staff came and joined us for an environmental systems meeting, and they gave input about their concerns about their, how, their understanding of how these things actually work and how they would interact with them. And so I think that was very helpful to the design team. Most recently on Friday, we looked at the gymnasium, the auditorium, and the library. These spaces are fantastic and will really be utilized as learning spaces that transform things for our students. So it's very exciting. And the last thing I would just say is that we've been talking about the need to have a presentation to the community soon. I think what's imagined is another joint school committee, city council meeting where the design team can come and show both representative bodies and anyone from the community who wants to join us what these spaces now look like and get a better sense of the detail that has developed since we've last presented them. So that's in the works, and I hope to be talking to you about that soon.
Mr. Larson?
I'm thrilled to hear that you've got the maintenance people involved in the new building from a point of view of they're going to have to deal with what the architects dreamt up.
Yes.
And I know in our industry there's a conflict between the people who designed something and the person who has to maintain something.
Yes.
And the person who designed it did not design it to be maintained. They designed it to look and run efficiently, but
Yep.
not be maintained easily. So having them involved at this point, I think, is
Yes, no, I
fantastic.
mean,
And
They were talking about the concerns about lugging filters up a ladder to get them up on the roof versus building in a stairwell so that the roof has easier access. Those kinds of things are exactly what they were talking
just
about.
because it fits on CAD CAM doesn't mean you
Yep.
can get your hand and the filter in there to turn it. So.
So they were there, and that was, I think, very helpful.
Mr. Geddes?
And I think along those same lines, choosing the construction manager at risk is hugely beneficial because having the construction company on already, I know Consigli was at the last school building committee meeting for the first time, and they're already able to provide some input into the design so that we're drastically limiting the chances for any upcharges, so to speak.
Yep,
So.
that's a very good point. They've been coming to design meetings, and they participate and lend their own expertise to the conversation and help us to reach good decisions that are going to help make this design the best it can possibly be.
Great, thank you.
And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sawyer. Next on the agenda, we have a proposed new wage scale for the AEA. As part of the last collective bargaining negotiations and agreement with the AEA, it was agreed that the two sides would work on a new wage scale for new hires going forward to work out several things, specifically kind of a large gap in between certain steps to make it more palpable going forward. And I think that those efforts were successful, so I want to thank our negotiating team of Mr. Geddes and Mrs. Scales for their hard work. And the proposed new wage scale was circulated to the committee at the last executive session, and I'll just turn it over to Mr. Furtado and Mrs. Singer to kind of remind us of the specifics from a financial point of view.
Sure. So we were terribly fortunate to be able to collaborate with the AAA. They had a very kind of open mind about this. It was not contentious in any way. There were certain parameters that they were very interested to see met, namely that we don't exceed 16 steps. They were pretty adamant about that. In return, they were willing to have the 16th step, the top step in the new scale, equal to the top step in the current scale, which was an important part for us. We were able to, without driving the starting wage absolutely crazy, reduce the step increments from 5% down to 3.2% because of that. And so we now have, for new employees, a 16-step scale, and I'm ignoring the kind of batches columns because at some point those are going to go away. So a 16-step scale that terminates at the top at the same place that the current scale terminates. It does allow for slightly increased starting wages. However, it takes 16 years to get to where people on the existing scale are going to take 10 years to get to. And the impact of that for the district is pretty profound if you think about it. If you assume that an employee is going to stay for 16 years, a person on the old scale will make approximately $40,000 more than the person on the new scale. So for every employee who gets on the new scale, and if you assume 16-year employment, the district saves $40,000. In addition to that, the annual increase is something that we can come close to absorbing in a 2.5% environment. So we're very close to where we need to be structurally, and and that is reflected in the savings over the course of a 16-year career for an employee.
Where are the steps at in the current scale?
I'm sorry.
Where are the steps at in the current scale? You said this is-
5.2. 5 down to 3.2.
And just to reiterate, this is only for new hires starting this
Only for new
this year.
hires.
This year.
Any questions, Mr. Geddes?
I'd like to echo Mr. Furtado's sentiment that we were very fortunate that the AEA was willing to consider this, and to have such respectful discussion about it was fantastic. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the AEA president, Adeline B., as well as the negotiating chair, Chris Cerrone, and the entire team. But it was great working with them. The agreement was reached actually about a week after the April 3rd vote on the new high school, and so as part of our negotiations back and forth, the AEA actually gave our side of the table a handout that actually said that it is our responsibility to understand and be a proactive part of the district needs and sustainability when possible. The community has made a huge investment in improving a high school, and we would like to show that we are invested in a healthy financial future for the district as well. We believe that cost savings for the district will allow for the future hiring to decrease class sizes and increase other student resources, which will result in improved working conditions for all educators. And they see sustainability of the district as a reality. So this is as much an indication of their appreciation for the community's investment in education, and their effort to reciprocate that. And it's something that I know I personally am grateful for. I hope the entire committee is. I hope the entire community is going forward. And it's something that we. It's the basis of a newfound relationship, I think, between the school committee and the AEA that I hope will continue to grow stronger in the coming years. Thank you.
Mr. Quinn?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So at some point, I noticed it was kind of a drop ad model almost, with your getting rid of, at least what I have in front of me. I apologize, I wasn't at the previous meeting. But it looks like step 2 goes away in 2019-20. Is that, do I have the right document in front of me?
That may be the current scale, right? I think part of the agreement was whatever happens to one scale happens to the other. So
I guess what I was just trying to think is, are the steps going to be renumbered because, or would somebody be on?
We're going to be hiring on step 3 or something.
Yeah, we're hiring at step 3, but your first, second, and third year is at step 3 salary, or what? I just trying to figure out the logistics of that. So a new hire person comes in at.
So the steps are not being renumbered. That was part
Okay.
of our discussion and negotiation. So
Okay.
the steps, as we add in the contract that was negotiated, the language in that was to drop a step, add a step. That same language has to apply to the new scale as well.
Yep.
So it will drop and add without renumbering.
So what does that mean? What is the new hire?
A new hire, then technically, if you have no experience coming in at what would be a step 1,
Is that step?
The first step will be called step 2.
right?
Okay.
And the reason
And
for
then-
that is just to mitigate the cognitive dissonance with
Yes.
me staying at the same step
Step.
number for 3 years. It's just something
So
that,
you'll move up a step every year?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And the number will change, but the ramifications of that is the first step will become step 2, and the first step will become step 3 over the course of the contract, as opposed to renumbering and getting back to kind of reality.
Any other questions? Motion to approve?
Moved. Second.
Any further discussion? I just again thank the negotiating committee and echo Mr. Geddes and thanking the AEA. This is something that we've been working on and discussing for a while, getting a new wage scale to bring about sustainability and more predictability as well in wage increases. So this will certainly be helpful to the district. So with that, we'll take a roll call. Mrs. Sawyer,
Yes.
Mr. Geddes,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Scales.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain. Mr. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. Storrs,
Yes.
Mr. Quinn,
Yes.
Mr. Domenici.
Yes.
All right, passes. Tried.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we will. Next on the agenda, we have a consideration of a new contract with our superintendent. The committee has been engaged in deliberations and negotiations on this. There's been a proposed contract circulated that was discussed and amended at today's executive session. And at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve that proposed contract, which was for a gross salary of $185,000 for a 3-year term rolling with a 2% increase each year.
So move.
Second.
Let's open it up for discussion. First, want to thank the committee. This was obviously a long, we spent a lot of time on this. It's a very obviously important decision for the committee. It's the leader of our district, the face of the district. Spent a lot of time looking at comparable salaries for similar sized districts, districts with similar student bodies, our neighboring districts, and came to the conclusion, which I think wasn't surprising to any of us, that our superintendent was currently significantly underpaid. I guess you could say that he signed a prove-it contract, so to speak, when we first brought him on, and I think we all, from what I hear, felt that he certainly has proven it and done more so. Acknowledge that we're speaking about our highest paid employee here, so that the numbers are significant, but also a number that when you look at neighboring districts and comparable districts is still below market value, and something that we acknowledge and thank the superintendent for acknowledging. But I think what we wanted to do was get to a point where we could all be comfortable. So hopefully Mr. Sawyer can be here for a long time. He knows that we recognize and appreciate the work that he does and the importance he has for the district. But also he recognizes the financial realities of working in Attleboro as well, and that that means you're going to be working at somewhat below market value. And so I think this is an agreement that if we do approve it, is a solid middle ground, and I think everyone should be proud of the work that was done. So with that, I'll open it up to further discussion and comments. Mr. Geddes?
I'll echo Mr. Withers' sentiment in thanking you for everything you've done for the district. And finishing out what I'm referring to as your rookie deal. This, I think, combines a couple of the things we've talked about in our last few meetings regarding salary. At our last meeting, we talked about market correction in terms of Mr. Furtado's salary. And we talked about sustainability with the Teachers Association. And this combines both of those concepts, I think. Again, the numbers are staggering, but in other circumstances, the numbers are likely to be a lot higher. So I think we're getting a good deal. And I shouldn't say I personally hope that we have you around here for a while. So thank you for all you do, and keep it up.
Mr. Storrs?
Thank you. The first contract was kind of, I guess you could call it a trial contract. It was partially assistant superintendent phasing in to become the superintendent, and you absolutely have proven yourself over the 3 years, including the assistant superintendent year. Through your efforts with the new high school, with everything you do, this is well deserved, and I definitely echo the sentiment that I'm hoping you're here a very long time. I served on the last committee for a superintendent search, so I know what is out there. And I know that we would be very hard pressed to find somebody that knows the district as well as you do, that has your skill sets and your, has a proven track record that you now have. So I believe that this contract will hopefully keep you around a very long time, and to the mutual benefit of the students and to the parents and the community.
Mr. Quinn?
Mark McCormick, the founder of the IMG Sports Agency, says the best time to or said, he's since passed, best time to negotiate is when everybody's happy. And you're coming off an excellent evaluation. You've helped deliver a new high school, so I think this was an opportune time. I also know that somebody of your caliber, if you haven't already, in the future will be getting phone calls about jobs that, will probably have a little bit less responsibility and as much pay, if not more so. I kind of see you as our Ed Cooley for Friar fans out there. Somebody who ordinarily wouldn't necessarily be drawn to an Attleboro job or to stay with an Attleboro job, but has such deep roots that this job has value. And I think like Providence College has invested in Ed Cooley because what he does for the college. I think what we want to do is to make sure that when somebody picks up the phone and calls Superintendent Sawyer, he takes a bath. And I hope that we can keep you here a long time. And I think this is the first step towards that. So thank you.
Mr. Larson?
I think Attleboro, this is not a place that Attleboro hasn't been in the past. So I don't think it's uncommon from that point of view. And I'm just thrilled that you're the one that's sitting on the other side of the table. And I have no problem with this contract whatsoever.
I think to Mr. Larson's point, this is a salary that, while an increase is what we were paying our last superintendent in his last year of his contract, which was 3 years ago now. So it is somewhere that Attleboro's been before, and I think, the performance over the past few years certainly deserves, has indicated that you deserve at least what we were paying your predecessor. You're certainly worth that, and as Mr. Quinn said, we want to make sure that you're happy and that you're here. Scott?
Well, I just wanted to point out we've talked a bit about the success of the past year, and in particular with where we are getting a new high school, which is unprecedented for this community. But I'm also pleased with some of the other items of merit. The high school getting some national recognition for academic achievement, the continued growth and change to 21st century learning environments and paradigms that you and your administration are following through, the collaboration across the different levels of schools, high schools, the network groups reaching out with the great elementary schools, finding ways to continue to improve the educational environment, even with challenges that we have. And we are getting a new high school, and we're not going to have it for several years. So it would be good to have that stability on that project, as well as to see where we continue to evolve as an educational community. So I'm excited that we were able to come to a consensus. I thank all of my colleagues on the committee. We did spend a lot of time talking and coming to a consensus. So we're happy to have you aboard, Dave, and we're excited to continue the good work that you and your team have done.
Mrs. Skills?
Just in addition to all the the items that he was saying, like as far as the improvements go, I also acknowledge your job performance, but also the stability you have brought to the district as far as your leadership team. We have not seen any turnover, and when was the last time? We know a special education director has stayed this long, right? Should I say that? I probably shouldn't have said that out loud. And our principals and the assistant principals, it's been a nice even flow, and that's to a credit to you. So this is a contract that acknowledges that.
I think just in summary, this is the best shape this district has been in. We've talked a lot about the new high school and your role in that process, but This is about far more than just the high school. The academic performance of our students, the community engagement that's happening, the relationships that are being developed, just all around. I can't remember the last time this district was such a point of pride for the city, and was in such great shape in comparison to other communities in the state.
Okay, take a roll call vote. Mr. Dominici?
Yes.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes.
Mr. Storrs?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Withers, yes. Mrs. Scales?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Geddes?
Yes.
Mrs. Sawyer?
No.
All right, I just want to, again, reiterate my thanks to both the committee and the superintendent for their hard work on this process. I think that, Mr. Quinn's right that it's best time to negotiate a contract when when everyone's happy, but it doesn't mean that it's, not tense and a lot of hard work, and, because it certainly was. So, a lot went into this, and thank you for all the later nights we've had in consideration that's been put into this, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on, is our minutes. We have minutes from our July 16th, 2018 meeting that were circulated with your packets. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda, motion to accept the donation from Bliss Restaurant in the amount of $284.45 to the class of 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept the donation from the YMCA of Attleboro in the amount of $2,000 to the Attleboro High School for the tobacco survey.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That concludes the consent agenda. Subcommittee report, Mrs. Scales.
Okay, for policy and personnel, we had a quick meeting on June 19th, and we have 4 motions to bring forward. The first is to approve the proposed Abacus lead provider job description as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. A motion to approve the proposed elementary school assistant principal job description as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We talked about the homework policy. We had some minor edits to that. The homework, well, I'll do that next. Motion to approve the recommended edits to policy IKB homework policy as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we looked at the homework guidelines. This is being reviewed by the lab, right? And we've had a meeting with parents so far, and right now we're looking to remove it from the policy handbook because it is just a guideline. So a motion to remove policy exhibit IKB E1 homework guidelines from the policy.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We also discussed the work that continues on reviewing and revising the safety plans and policies in the district. And the next meeting is on September 17th. And that's all we have.
Thank you, Mrs. Scales.
You're welcome.
Open forum, is there anyone who would like to address the committee at open forum? All right, seeing no one, that'll close open forum. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
I listened to all, reading them along.
I was blown away. I'm like, what are these?
No, they should have that.
I understand.